I'm Frank Gehry, and this is my masterclass. You know that guy, William Shakespeare? You've heard of him? And you heard of what he said, all the world's a stage, that comment. I think that's pretty true. We're all on stage, we're all actors, acting out our lives on stage. And the stage the background are the buildings we build. They should be human friendly, respectful of people. They should engage you. So I would say 98% of the cities around the world don't do that. John Cage said, "Not knowing cheers the knowing." And I think that's pretty much my philosophy too. I have always felt that if you know what you're going to do in advance, then you won't do it. That's like jazz. They don't know exactly where they're going, and somebody plays a few notes and then they pick up and they do it. And creativity, I think, in all fields, including business, including science, starts with the unknown. So you got to be curious, I think, and not be afraid to be curious. And you got to find your own voice. I mean, we can talk about it here in this kind of format. But if I have a New York City developer client that wants me to do a 70-story tower, and I tell him not knowing cheers to knowing, he'll kick me out of the room. So it's not something you can broadcast in a way. It's just the way you work. We live in a world that's basically a collision of thoughts is surrounding us. And it's represented in the buildings and the music and the art. And so the idea of having a neat, clean box seems like a lie. The messiness is kind of a signature of the times, I think. So it's kind of logical that we would express that in when you build. And the pristine Misesian Farnsworth House idea is antithetical to that, to today. I get in trouble here because, a long time ago, Mies van der Rohe did the Farnsworth House in Illinois, and it's a beautiful sculpture. Everything is organized and spotless to conform to that aesthetic, and they can't escape it. And it's overpowering. The architecture would organize your life in maybe a negative way, an unfriendly way. The people who do it, God bless them, they love it and they feel comfortable in it. I think they have other houses that they can go to and throw their clothes on the floor and have their kids play in. But these pristine houses become like museum things. There's a lot of buildings like that are really beautiful architecture. So I'm not demeaning them by any means. But Mies van der Rohe himself lived in an apartment with all kinds of tchotchkes and books and stuff, and they're user-friendly. So I think there's a kind of comfort. You walk in, you want to sit on a couch, you want the light to be soft when you want it, you want the room not to be harsh, I think you can make architecture and still do that. It doesn't detract to make something comfortable. Now, the other kind of buildings exist. I mean, there are a lot of them that are ice cold. People with a lot of money tend to build those. I think they're trying to cleanse their sins or something. I don't know why they do that. The Walt Disney Concert Hall was designed as a place for people to experience music, for them to interact with some wonderful musicians and some music, wonderful music that had been handed down through the centuries. So I focused on making a place where people like to be there and like to be with other people, and that they sense the musicians and the musicians sense them. And there's a uplifting and positive feeling that the musicians feel from the audience feels from the musicians. People who give lectures know what I'm talking about. You go to lecture halls all the time, and some of them work and a lot of them don't. You just feel you're standing there on a stage and there's an audience out there, but you don't see them, you don't know them, there's no relationship to them. And I think it changes the quality of the interaction and the speech and the feelings of the experience. So I think you have to think about it. You have to consciously try to understand what makes somebody feel comfortable. Architecture is about creating the built environment. The built environment is being created for people to live in, use in, work in, sleep in, die in, study in, eat in, blah, blah, blah. As humans, we have certain comforting things that make us feel better, and there's a possibility of transferring humanity through inert materials. And my model for that was, years ago, I was in Delphi and I stood before the statue of the charioteer, 500 BC, and I looked at it for a bit and started crying because it was so beautiful, artist unknown. And I realized some person, 500 BC, built this statue out of inert materials, out of bronze, and through that process created an object so beautiful that it made somebody like me cry so many years later. And that this kind of transferring of feelings through inert materials over the ages was something that I aspired to. It made it clear what a mission could be for an architect, working with a complicated process of engineering, building codes, economics, how to manage all of that and put it together and at the end produce something that would transfer feelings. For me, that's the mission. If you free associate in life, you're not symmetrical. I don't go here and do this, and then you got to go over there and do this, mimic me. You don't do that. So we talk to each other, and there's a freedom in that relationship. Everything you do with form is compositional. You're always balancing where windows go, where lighting goes. But with asymmetry, you're freer, so you can free associate more, and it's more casual. It doesn't feel like an imposition. Symmetry says you got to do this. Sometimes a little imbalance is nice and engaging. I always think of it as more related to democratic values. I mean, that's kind of pompous, but it is. In a way, it's saying we're all in this together, and if you want to move over there and I'm going to move over here, that's going to be fine. If we want it to look good, we'll figure out a way to make it look good. You'll have a red hat and I'll have a blue hat. And, if we need to balance it, maybe we don't, maybe we do. I don't think the rules are important. If you look at some of the greatest art ever, the Edo period screens from Japan, they ain't symmetrical. And I think that kind of freedom expression in our built environments is a big plus, and we shouldn't lose it.